tonight's talk is about Chatsworth. And I think that a talk about a history, talk about a location and its history is really important to us to realize how our whole community has been developed. Everything from its history, the movie ranches, etc., are very interesting to us. And I have to say, I am happy to announce a friend of mine, Carla Bollinger, who is an author in my brand book that I did way back. And I appreciate everything she did. She's very interested and a very informed historian. So I present, and please welcome with me our speaker tonight, Carla Bollinger.
You know, I asked Joe when I worked on the book, he did not know me, if there was a stipend. So I learned, no, I would work like a dog and not get paid. So when he told me he'd like me to, he didn't say I'd like to, he said, you're one of the presenters this year. And I thought, I should joke with him and say, what's the stipend? Okay, the reason I will cover this history of Chatsworth begins actually in Simi Valley, and it's a sidebar to early human footprints. But when I lived in Simi, my house was at the very southern end, center, and we would hear all the rockets blasting, the rocket testing. And one day, I walked up the hill with my 3 young children and a neighbor and hers, and we learned there's a cattle ranch up there. So, only when we got up there, it was stampeding, and I could hear this thundering, and all of a sudden, a true cowboy comes racing and yelling and swearing, of course. You know, so we raced down that hill, never went up again. So actually, I was in a doomed marriage. When the marriage ended, the kids and I sold the house and we moved to the San Fernando Valley, the West Valley. Why did I do that? I couldn't see leaving my children with a sitter for 2 more hours because in Simi, you know, commercial business did not exist. We didn't even have a mall. So anyway, we packed up. And so this story of Chatsworth will begin with the early human footprints. Our first people, / Native Americans. The first period is Horizon 1. And really, the only Native Americans in that era were the Chumash in the coastal area and Channel Islands. Horizon 2 is the Millingstone era, and it's 6,000 to 3,000 BC. And now we start moving inland a little bit. You don't have to read the whole thing, but this is, you know, the kinds of things that were found by the different archaeologists. Horizon 3, the intermediate, 3000 BC, AD 500, middle period. And we see a big shift from hunting maritime substance for a wider use of plant foods and different artifacts. And the fourth one is the Horizon 4, late historic period. And we're seeing in those artifacts, and Brian probably knows all this from doing his own excavations in the Santa Monica Mountains. So moving along, we'll have the what was really beautiful, and I was privileged in that I went to an event. I was hiking my dogs. This is after my 3 children, and we lived in the West Hills, Canoga Park area. Had grown up, gone off to college, and were in their own career. And I ended up with this black dog, a lab, and hiking all over Chatsworth. And so there was the event, and the people from Santa Susana Mountain Park Association asked me if I would be a member. And I said, okay. And then they were so desperate for board members, they asked me to sign up to be a board member. But the joy of that was the fact that I went on various sightings, various trips, and first of all to the Borough Flats during winter solstice. And you'll see here, wrong button. You'll see here the light coming in the morning, and it was like a pointer. I'm going to show you another panel on the next frame. The other site is called the Lake Manor site, and this site is in Chatsworth. Well, it became close to the Chatsworth Reservoir, and it's in a private home, so property, and the general public is never invited, of course, and I was just fortunate to be, as a board member, able to see it. Now, the top photo is the Borough Flats again, only the whole panel. And these are polychrome petroglyphs, and they exist at the Painted Cave. I've not seen those, up north of Santa Barbara. And then they're considered Chumash, basically. It's very celestial. And then we have by the way, that panel has been repainted about 3 times over the periods of time. The next frame is the Chatsworth site, what they call Mamanga Village. And this comes from the middle period, 1500 to 500 AD. And they all have the similarity of the Chumash type of drawing, petroglyphs, paintings, whatever. And this location is north of Stony Point. How many have been off of near Topanga and 118? Well, you'll see Stony Point. It's pretty prominent on the east side of Topanga Canyon. So this is north of that, this drawing, or petroglyph, and it's in the Chatsworth Academy private school. Again, we were invited, and now they have a new owner, and they don't even want anthropologists coming over there. So it was a very fortunate time that I went. This is just to give you a perspective of where I'm taking you. The Chatsworth was originally called Chatsworth Park, and then just simply reduced to Chatsworth. It is now politically part of District 12 council members' office, and you'll see the Chatsworth Reservoir at the bottom, and then extended up to through the Santa Susana Pass. How many have ridden on the Santa Susana Pass? We'll come to that later, because I had to take just the Santa Susana Pass in the 70s, late 60s, early 1970s, to come home at night. You know, it was just, that was it. The 118 wasn't there yet. And then we have the Chatsworth Reservoir, and I'm going to cover more detail about that. In this frame, we have the 4 main archaeological sites in the West San Fernando Valley, Santa Susana Mountains, foothills, or the Chatsworth Cairn, which is right inside of the former Chatsworth Reservoir, now Nature Preserve. And this is over, in this area they have found human remains and artifacts that are over 5,000 years. South of that is the Scorpion Village. Oh, sorry. The mourning ceremony items here were found in this area, along with all kinds of artifacts. It's really rich in archaeological studies. Then we have Valley Circle Boulevard, which is what the road is that runs just west of the Chatsworth Nature Preserve. And along that is Dayton Canyon at Roscoe Boulevard. Unfortunately, they decided to build homes there, and in the process, though, there was excavation done, and again, it was like a larger village with at Dayton Canyon, as well as the whole area of the, let me see, do I have the right frame here? So you had El Scorpion Village, which was a little left of the Dayton Canyon area. And that's a larger area with a huge, not huge, but a Chumash village. It's called Rancho El Scorpion Lime Kiln area too at Bell Canyon. This here is where the lime kiln was inside of the reservoir, and there's even more along Dayton Canyon. And that was quite an industrial business for early pioneer settlers. And then this map with the Santa Susana Field Lab, prominent, is just sort of a range of where the park areas are. The Santa Susana Mountains, the Rocky Peak Park. Sage Ranch is a park right next to the Santa Susana Field Lab. And then you have the Amundsen open space area. This area was part of, what bank was it? There was a bank that owned it, and a lot of we conservative environmentalists fought to keep it as open space. And we won that one. Amundsen, it was called Amundsen Open Space. And then we have the Liberty Canyon Bridge, which now is crossing over the 101 for the wildlife. The map alongside of it is the West San Fernando maps, and it was actually a map I found in the LA library a number of years ago, and it shows in red the El Camino Real, and then the Mission Road up above, where the Santa Susana Pass is. It was drawn by a man that had a drinking problem for a lot of years, but he recovered and started drawing maps. So this was an early map I thought was interesting. The next page, we're in the Spanish era, Spanish exploration, and of course, Father Junipero, how do I say that, Brian?
Junipero.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, and of course, we know the story about the El Camino Road, which is in red at the bottom. And then this is a map I drew just because I couldn't find a map that showed the middle line of the Santa Susana Pass Road. And then above that was an early stagecoach road between the Buenaventure Mission and the San Fernando Mission. And it also indicates Father Jose Sinan had realized that it was a faster route for them to travel between the Ventura mission to the San Fernando mission by going the route of the Santa Susana Pass. So that became a very critical pass for not beyond just the Spaniards. Prior to that, it was, let's say, a Native American footprint path. Now, this I could not find an actual stagecoach picture going through the Santa Susana Pass, but this beautiful illustration, it shows how hard it was during the time period of the stagecoach riding through the Santa Susana Pass and hitting what they called the Devil's Slide. The passengers would literally have to get out of the stagecoach and help push the coach from the back rear, push it up over this really bumpy area, which is on the right side. Mm-hmm. And then later, actually, my daughter was helping me with this, and I had too many pictures, and we mixed up which side of the headings are. So the Devil's Slide indication is on the right, and the stagecoach grade road was built in 1895 to surpass the Devil's Slide. Now, the next frame, the problem with the El Camino Real coastal route is they didn't have PCH. So when heavy storms, it was difficult passage for the stagecoaches along the coast in many times, in many ways. So this painting sketch was done by Edward Vischer in 1860, which is a pretty good rendition of what it was like to ride a stagecoach along the coast. The bottom photo image is the Joe Horner wagon, which was a wagon that would transport Simi hotel visitors into the San Fernando Valley using the Santa Susana Pass road. The Stagecoach Trail was in use for just 34 years, between 1861 and 1895. And you can see it head south because it's going to be, the stagecoach went down to the Los Encinos stagecoach depot. And the Chatsworth Historical Society is, by the way, a lot of the photos, the screenshots. I'm a lifetime member. I don't have time to go to the meetings, but Ray and Ann Vinson are absolutely wonderful. And Ray said, just screenshot anything you need, Carla. So I want to give them a shout out. And that area in green in that map below is the area that Jan Hingston in the purple shirt, she is being interviewed by Art Sidebottom in KCT. Does anyone remember him? Okay, well, she in 1970 said, I want to save the historic value of the Stagecoach Road plus open space. She had seen oak trees being cut down on the north side area of the Chatsworth Reservoir, and she just said, I've had enough, we've got to start saving things. So that's the organization I had joined. I never met her, but one time when she came to visit, and I just greatly admire all the work she did to get those 680 or 70 acres at least set aside for open space. Now, the Santa Susana Pass Road was asphalted and paved in 1917, and it was at the time the only connection between the San Fernando Valley and the Simi Valley. And until the 118 Ronald Reagan Freeway was built and completed, they started building it in sections through the San Fernando Valley, and then when it was extended into Simi, it was completed in the end by 1979. And here we see a newfangled automobile, and I got that out of the Ventura County Museum, that photo. And then the Santa Susana Pass Road headed east. At that time, it was not connected to Topanga Road. It was just, that area was just Santa Susana Road. That is Stony Peak in color there, that I talked about earlier. On both sides of the Santa Susana Pass, the Chatsworth train station, first built in 1893, and then it burnt down, so it's been rebuilt, and you're welcome to visit it anytime. It's a very important, busy transportation hub. It serves Metrolink, Amtrak, Metro, and it has a cute small museum, so sometime just take the train and stop there. The Santa Susana Railroad Depot served the agricultural business in Simi Valley. And when the agricultural land turned into large lots of homes, taking up the farmland, the business died for the depot. However, they've done a beautiful job of saving it as a museum. And if you have grandchildren, it's a fun place at Christmas time. I have 3 of my grandsons sitting there. Even the oldest one at the time agreed to stand with Santa Claus so I could have a photo. This tells about this frame, the Santa Susana Pass Railroad train tracks and tunnels that were built. Construction beginning in 1898 and completed in 1903, when the first train rode through. It consisted of passage through the Santa Susana Mountains, foothills, but still mountainous, were 3 tunnels, and the 26 tunnels on the Simi side, and that is the longest one, and then the 27 and 28, where the trains come out. And this is just a picture of the contractors and the men working to build the tunnels. And on the right side, we have the 1914 picture of the train headed north past tunnel 28 to set 27, so it's coming east. The last picture I happened to come across, I did not know during the war that they posted soldiers to guard the train in the train tunnels. And if they didn't have a soldier there, a bona fide soldier, citizens in Chatsworth would volunteer to stay there. Now, the first important usage, besides traveling, commuting, was William Bannon. He was one of the early homesteader pioneers in Chatsworth, and he had 160 acres in 1892 originally. He expanded. The Southern Pacific extended the railroad line. It didn't go into his property from Burbank into the Chatsworth Park. And Bannon, who was an experienced quarryman, purchased an additional 120 acres, which included the former De La Rosa Adobe, which was the stagecoach way station when the stagecoach was running. He did that to connect the railroad line alongside his quarry. So tons and tons of riprap sandstone, 50 carloads of quarried stone was railed on flat cars daily for 4 years, 1901 to 1905, to build the San Pedro breakwater. Even though the granite-covered sandstone didn't protect from the surges and scouring of the sea. It was like the city got boondoggled because they used sandstone. And so it all disappeared into the ocean, I'm sure. The Santa Susana Pass Railroad and track scenes, early 1912 steam engine. And then the 1948, exiting out of Tunnel 27 on the other side coming through, which I think is a pretty train. And then today we have the Metrolink. Metrolink, by the way, happens to be one of my customers, so they provided photos for me. And my husband, Henry Bollinger, took this photo shot of the tracks going through the rocks along, and the train tracks do run alongside the area of the Santa Susana Pass. And he was with me visiting Iverson Movie Ranch when he took that shot, so I decided to promote it. Homesteaders of the northern hills of Chatsworth. There's too many here to consider, but the important ones were along the Santa Susana Pass. J.R. Williams, he would, well, you'll see other things by him, but he had a horse stable for, William S. Hart even used his horse stable. His sister-in-law was Augusta Wagman. Augusta married Carl Iverson. Carl Iverson happened to come across her property one day to get some water. He was working on building a dam up there above Twin Lakes and wanted a drop of water, and the romance began and they got married. And we'll come back to the Iverson Movie Ranch a little bit later. James Hill and Palmer were friends, and they had the early general store, 1906 to 1915. And I forgot, they bought the store after the death of Mr. and Mrs. Jackson and other early settlers in Chatsworth. And Lovell Hill was the postmaster from 1912, as it shows. Here you'll see very prevalent during the early years, pre-water in the valley being brought in through the aqueduct, the dry wheat farming period, 1873 to 1888. J.R. Williams was one of the property owners along Santa Susana, one of the early homesteaders, as I mentioned, and a lot of them worked in the fields. In this case, he ran the thrashers, and he was in the home farming area. Same as Carl Iverson. I learned Carl Iverson had a potato farm, and before the movie industry found them. The Thrasher Dry Wheat Farm, they owned that area within the reservoir from 1889 to 1930, and they got to sell it to the DWP, so DWP could build the last and final reservoir attached to the Los Angeles Aqueduct. In the south homesteaders of Plummer and north of Roscoe, There's so many names, but Francesca Domick was very important, and I'll get to her in a little bit. Charles Woolsey was very important to me because I lived on Woolsey Canyon for a while. So I happen to have lived on both the north-south side of the Santa Susana Field Lab, and here on Woolsey Canyon, I lived on the east side of Santa Susana Field Lab. And Woolsey was a farmer, not of any prominence, I guess, but he owned the land, and then it was sold to North American Aviation, and of course, to some, Woolsey Canyon is called Rockadine Road. Clyde Dayton. Clyde is the honeydew man. He was very enterprising, and what I want to tell you about him is had beekeeping business. He was selling all the time into the city of Owensmouth, just south of Chatsworth, and he was getting richer and richer. So people knew that, so we'll come back to him. Francesca Domick was the eldest daughter of Pierre Domick, and Pierre homesteaded land, but he was the one who worked the lime kiln business, and he was French Basque, and he was also another very enterprising man. The lime kiln business supported the building in downtown LA, and then also they talk about it as being his lime kiln business was also utilized at the San Fernando Mission. I haven't had time to study what date, must have been another building or a rebuild of the mission than the original one, but he was involved with that. And so this gentleman here at the bottom left was interviewed by an archaeologist, J.P. Harrington, in 1916. And he's standing by one of the three adobes that the Domick family owned. And so this one is the ruins of, but Jose Juan Alves was interviewed by J.P. Harrington in 1916, and he was the grandson of the Native American Odin. I have his name somewhere, but not here. So in the Bell Canyon area. So now, the beginning of the construction of the Chatsworth Reservoir began in 1913 after the water was turned on at the aqueduct, and it took till 1918 to complete it. It was an earthen dam. It never was utilized for drinking water, strictly to support the agricultural in the area. So I found this cute article here, May 17, 1918, that while they were building the dam, the workers were running a bootleg beer and liquor business. So I love stories like that. The reservoir was drained. This is it when it was fully filled. But then it was drained in 1968 to upgrade it. And then the Silmar earthquake happened, and DWP felt it was seismically unsafe and too expensive to rebuild. So it lay dormant until what happened was Hal Burnson, one of the council member in District 12, with the complete dedication and commitment by all the, like SSMPA, the Santa Susana Pass people, the Chatsworth Historical Society and others, to preserve the land as open space. And historically, with all the archaeological treasures. And so today, it's still in that, it's still a nature preserve. And we have to fight. Things have, tried to change it. When I painted this painting, it was of the ecology pond outside of the actual dammed area. And for years it was there and taken care of and refilled. And then the drought season hit too much, and they decided to drain it and drill 2 deeper holes to supposedly retain the water. But they never did take out all the invasive trees and things that suck up the water, so that's another story. But I was up on a hillside at the Chatsworth Trails Park, directly across from the Chatsworth Nature Preserve now, and just went out there and painted it. And then later, like I said, sad to say, it doesn't look like that today. Okay, bandits, outlaws, and murderers of Chatsworth. So, Vasquez was prominent in Southern California as a bandit with his group of murderers and outlaws, or I don't know if they murdered so much as some others, but there was a place called Larry Station on the Simi side of the Santa Susana Pass, and he was there often. It was ran by an Irishman, a happy-go-lucky drinking Irishman, Larry, and Vasquez was welcome. But he never robbed the stagecoach or did anything crazy like that along the way. However, I don't know if you're aware of him, you know about Vasquez Rocks up in the Little Rock, above Little Rock, and they named it after him because he was there quite a bit, hiding out, and he had his own place up there. But he was one of the early bandits, but he wasn't somebody who caused any problem along the Santa Susana Pass. It was just his passage through. But, however, the Manson and the cult, I did not know, those years I lived in Simi Valley, when I had to drive through the pass, that here was this gang at Spawn Ranch. Spawn Ranch was kind of a low-grade movie location. It was very small, comparatively to the Iverson Ranch or Corriganville on the other side, but they did do some filming. Anyway, they took over the ranch from the owner, George, right now, and George Spawn, and his health was deteriorating, and he was blind, basically. So the Manson cult moved in, and of course they were stealing cars and murdering people and driving by and never knowing what was driving by. I think about it, I think, oh, what if I had a flat tire? But the irony to that is, I'll tell you about more irony later, but of course we all know the outcome. Manson and Susan Atkins and Leslie Van Hout and all of them have sat in jail till they're dying. So, there's one left. And has anyone seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the movie? Well, I was was impressed because they built the set to match the Spawn Ranch really well. And it was, the location for the filming was in Corriganville, on the Simi side of the Santa Susana Pass. It's a great place to bring your kids and grandkids and let them play on the rocks. And it also, Corriganville it was pre-Disney. They had shootouts, they had, stagecoach rides and reenactments of stuntmen and all kinds of wonderful things. And I actually got to speak with Tom Corrigan, the son of Ray Crash Corrigan, who originally bought it. And he owned Corrigan Steakhouse. And unfortunately, he passed, and the new owner of the restaurant had said that they would save all his posters. He had a ton of wonderful posters, and I tried to get the relative that ended up with the restaurant if she didn't want to continue taking care of them, I asked the Margaret Herrick Museum if they could come out with me, and we'll talk to them about donating them to the museum and other places. And the new owner of the restaurant, I heard, was going to just keep the posters, but the new restaurant, I found out, a whole different type of restaurant than the Corrigan Steakhouse, so they don't have the posters up. And I don't know where they are. But anyway, that's part of that. Now, still going back to before the Manson gang in Chatsworth, Long Box Canyon, which is parallel to Woolsey Canyon, there was a cult group, the Fountain of the World, run by Krishna Venta, another man that loved having all the wives, all the women. And so one time, a couple of the men got pretty angry that their women or wives or whatever were taken in, and they let off a suicide bomb. And Krishna died, as well as the two that bombed the place and some others. It's just kind of weird that I never heard of this group until doing a little more research about the Chatsworth history. The cult members actually at first seemed very loving and giving. There was I wrote a train crash, but it was an airplane crash in Simi Hills, and they were very helpful in helping the 14 that survived and what have you. Now, the other horrible murder actually was Clyde Dayton and his wife. This is the man who was very wealthy from all his honeybee business and other things. I guess word got around, and his shack was burned down, and their bodies, of course, burned. Now, I read Catherine Mulholland's book years ago, something, a baby, I can't remember the name, but it was a Catherine Mulholland book. She was the author, and she projected that several things could have happened. The wife was unhappy living in this shack. They had lots of money. Why couldn't I have a home? And they fought a lot. So there was speculation that she set the place on fire. There was speculation that he was not doing well health-wise, and they committed suicide. But then there was speculation that there was a guy in Calabasas, kind of a wild dude, and he knew they had a lot of money and robbed them, poured gasoline all over the place and burnt the place up. So, but it's a cold case. It was never solved. I happened to one day decide to paint the Chatsworth Nature Preserve at the bottom of Woolsey Canyon. And there's a big rock formation. And so I parked my car, I had my easel, my paints, and I was climbing up the rocks. And all of a sudden I got this ugly, weird feeling. I really did. And it spooked me. So I didn't have my dog anymore. And my dog used to go with me on painting outings. So I just felt bizarre because the way it was set in, nobody could see you from the road. So I decided to go home, and I did a little research, and sure enough, a couple guys from that same house, but not part of that Venture group on Fox Canyon, and their girlfriends were taking a drive to go to a party, and two hitchhiking girls were picked up by them, and they all went to the party, and there were a lot of drugs. They all went back, and they were in this canyon, Woolsey Canyon, and somehow the girls got angry, well, justifiably for being angry because the men were messing with the girls, but they went crazy, and the girls got badly stabbed numerous times. And so I often think about that, like, why did I feel so creeped out? I don't know if these things can do this to you, but it sure did it to me. Now we're going to have fun. Iverson Movie Ranch, when you go down Topanga Canyon, let's say you're going south off the 118, you would make a right turn on Santa Susana Pass. If you're heading up north on Topanga, you would make a left turn on Santa Susana Pass. And you'll be right at the Iverson Movie Ranch area. It was at one time very large. Unfortunately, when they died, some of the family members had moved away and they wanted nothing to do with it, the children, adult children. So it ended up in the hands of somebody, a married relative, and he started selling off the property. But the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy has saved the Garden of Gods area. And I'll show you a picture of that soon. The Iverson, Augusta Wagman on the left, she was the one that originally owned the homestead and then married Carl on the right. And the other woman, Augusta, is a aunt of Joe Iverson, their son. So actually I was hoping Doug Furbottom and Deke would come tonight because it was Doug Furbottom who gave me these photos from his family collection. So Iverson Movie Ranch was the granddaddy of filming in that area. There was, of course, I mentioned Shays Ranch. Next to them was Bell Ranch, I'm sorry. And further down, Brandis filming. And at the end, on the Santa Susana side, was the Corriganville. And the producers found, the first producers, like Cecil B. DeMille, D.W. Griffith, and William S. Hart, found this location. And so, but I always think of this area at first as all Western filming. But Buster Keaton was there. That movie is Three Ages, 1923. The movie the picture on the right is a William Hart movie, The Captive God. Most of that movie was filmed in Balboa, San Diego, but there were some scenes I happened to find at the Margaret Herrick Museum. This is all part of Stony Point. 1916. This covered wagon is inside of the Chatsworth Reservoir at the time, And this too is a William S. Hart film, Three-Word Brand, he filmed it there in 1921. We're out of, I had so many photos, my daughter and I went crazy, but the next photo on the right is the TV show Zorro's Cabin. This is above Lake Manor, which is the area of Chatsworth where the homes around the Chatsworth Nature Reserve. So this is above that, and a lot of filming was done throughout this whole area. So this one was again, Zorro. Then we have a D.W. Griffith movie filmed in the Santa Susana Park. This park is at the end of Devonshire. It's a city park, and then the state park is part of that area that I showed you earlier in the green that Jan Hingston saved. And this movie is called The Primitive Man, 1914, again by D.W. Griffith. Next to that is William Hart again, Tiger Man, 1918. He didn't film much in Iverson Ranch, but he did have this sort of like a still shot, promotional shot of the movie Tiger Man. Next to him in that film scene is Laurel and Hardy. And the movie that they filmed there was Flying Deuces, 1939. Now, in that movie, if you've ever seen, how many love Laurel and Hardy? Because they're having an international convention next summer in San Diego. I'll share all that info. But anyway, this was supposed to be piles of laundry. There's a scene where they're just making a mess of everything. So they put the laundry pieces above a big rock formation, so it looks like it's all laundry. Again, lower left, we're back with the William S. Hart. This is another scene from that Stony Point area of the Captive God. And again, most of the filming was done at Balboa Park in San Diego, but these were fun scenes to find. Next to it is, again, William Hart movie. You'll see the Native Americans coming in to the scene, and this was part of the Chatsworth Reservoir. And nobody knows, not even DWP from the old photos, who owned this log cabin on their property. Mary Pickford, 1922. Tess of the Storm, and this was also filmed. You can see the water, the reservoir behind her. Now, the Squaw Man with not DW, yeah. This movie, I looked everywhere for because I was told it was in a book that had a lot of problems. It wasn't accurate, that it was filmed at Iverson. I couldn't find it. Well, my buddy who helped me with the Brand Book article about the Iverson Ranch has the Iverson movie blog. And I had driven by this area so many times, and I said to him, I know it's in Chatsworth, this scene. And it turns out he found it above the Community Lake Manor Church, and above it is this rock. It was a scene of the Alps scene, and there we are. He found it, 1914. The picture next to it is filmed at Burro Flats. It was then the Silvernail Ranch, and the movie is Roving Tumbleweeds, 1939, and Smiley Burnett, and who else do I have there? Yeah. And so I've got brochures on the back table if you're interested. Boeing gave me a bunch of brochures about the filming of different movies in that Boeing Santa Susana Field Lab area in the 30s, 40s. Below we have Gary Cooper from Cecil B. DeMille, the plainsman in the Iverson Ranch. Next to him is Man, Woman, Marriage, 1921. It was a big production, a big feature movie. There were a number of feature movies filmed at Iverson, even though predominantly they were Western, with some comedies. This scene is from Cherokee Uprising, Iron Eyes Cody, and Whip Wilson, Cherokee Uprising, 1950. The man on the right on a horse, that is my hero, Yakima Canute. He was the greatest stuntman ever. He designed just different, what do you call them, stuntman aids to prevent them from getting hurt. And you see his name over and over in the silent movies and moving into the talkies. He would do small parts in the film for silent movies, but he didn't have a good speaking voice. However, he was an amazing stuntman. How many have seen The Stagecoach with John Wayne? The scene where, you're right, the stage is racing and, here's this character underneath the stage wagon, that is Yakima Canute. He did that a number of times. I mean, I can't even imagine crawling under a racing, stagecoach pulled by running horses. Lone Ranger, 1949 to 1959, and he's rearing up. You can see the edge of the Lone Ranger rock. Now, when you drive down Santa Susana Pass, you make a right turn on Red Mesa, and right away, you'll see the Lone Ranger rock. It was destined to be built in that area. It was a big condo group in the background of the Lone Ranger rock. But I heard that Clayton Moore went and talked with them and asked them not to destroy his rock. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I like to think so. Anyway, it's still there. But before that rock was the Lone Ranger rock had prominence. We all saw it at the end of the Lone Ranger series, TV series. James Cagney from the Oklahoma Kid, 1939, had raised up a horse right by that same rock. So James Cagney beat Clayton Moore. Another great stuntman was Cliff Lyons, and he was as crazy as Yakima, daring feats. And here he is the stunt double for Buck Jones, 1935, Outlaw Guns. Now we're going to see the prominent Garden of the Gods of what is saved in the Iverson movie ranch. Scene after scene can be seen in old movies, silent and talkies. The Stagecoach, John Ford let John Wayne be the star, have a strong role. It was a pivotal role for John Wayne. John Ford really liked John Wayne, but he treated him hard. He didn't give him any slack. And Ford had given John Wayne a nice role earlier in his years when he was just doing B movies. And he didn't feel John Wayne in the movie did not do well. So he sort of ignored John Wayne and just kept him in all the little B movies. But this role pivoted John Wayne into stardom, recognition, stardom, and it's a great movie. John Ford also didn't do just Westerns. This is Wee Willie Winkie set. And again, Doug Furbottom gave me this photo, a Shirley Temple movie when she was young, 1937. And to the right is Jane Cheetah in Tarzan. Of course, Maureen O'Sullivan with Johnny Weissmuller, the Olympic swimming champion. There were other Olympic stars that when they came back, they needed something to do, and they ended up in the film industry. So Johnny was one of the early ones. This one is 1932, this Tarzan series, Tarzan the Ape Man. In the middle, another John Ford. This is Grapes of Wrath, the ending, when the Joad family have finally arrived, and Ma has already there's a scene where Ma's sitting on the footboard of that old rickety truck piled high with stuff, and lets, her son know that, the grandmother died. And she didn't say anything so they could get through passage through to California. And then the ending is the family's overlooking and they feel like they have arrived. Here's our new life, our new beginning, after losing everything in Oklahoma. And they're looking out off of Iverson Movie Ranch at Stony Peak and all the farmland below. It's just a beautiful scene. The movie at the bottom here left is The Three Musketeers. It was a series of westerns, and you can see Max Tahome is the far left, Ray Corrigan, and then John Wayne. Ray Crash Corrigan was his name. He got started wearing an ape suit, and he got parts, and then he branched out into actually doing starring parts, as you will. But he also realized the Iverson family was making a lot of money as a movie location, so I'm going to buy up land on the other side, and he did. And so filming was done in both places. But Tom Corrigan, the son, told me in an interview I did before he died, that one thing that Iverson Ranch had is they had that stagecoach road where they could really do, running horses and, scenes like that they couldn't do at Corriganville. So anyway, there were 50 in this series of the Three Musketeers. All had different names, and they were just productive. Kids, I remember going in there and seeing the cliffhangers and these wonderful old movies. This was Pals of the Saddle. Of course, Roy Rogers, Dale Evans, they were living in this area. They actually had a house on Trigger Road. Part of the city park now, at the end of Devonshire, was a shooting range for Roy and his friends, and I don't know who else, but so that property now became a city park. And so they were residents, and they were the actors, and for a while, Roy Rogers was the mayor. So I wish, I don't know, it's just they moved and they went out to Victorville, and I don't know, I just think, why did you leave? Now, I don't know, does anyone know who this actor is on the far right? Pardon? He's a villain. This is Boris Karloff of the horror stories. And in this role, he's the Utah Kid. And this one's filmed 1930, filmed at Iverson. I love these discoveries. The building on the top is a log cabin. On the other side are the west side of the Chatsworth Nature Preserve and what's called Lake Manor area. The little section of homes and this little cabin, and across the street from them is that church, little church. And along Devonshire, we have the Los Torres restaurant. It's been there like 50 years. Oh, the Munch Box. It was saved. Has anyone ever seen the Yule Hauser interview with the people from the Chatsworth Historical Society? You can Google it. Just Google Yule Hauser, the Munch Box. It's so cute because the presidents of the Chatsworth Historical Society and Virginia Watson, the curator, are interviewed. And it's just, you know, it was saved, let's put it that way, from destruction by the Chatsworth Historical Society. This is a pioneer church. It once was on Topanga. It was due for demolition. It was relocated to the Oakwood Cemetery at the end of Lassen. It's a big cemetery, very pretty. And then the bottom is that one homesteader's home, the Hill Palmer little house in the back. And the museum was renamed in honor of Virginia Watson. And to the right, Virginia Watson is being interviewed another time by Yule Hauser, and the president's standing behind her. And it was ironic, but I met Virginia Watson when the California Writers Club, started by Jack London, I don't know how many years ago, but they opened up a chapter here in the San Fernando Valley, or not here, but in the San Fernando Valley. And I was taking a creative writing class, and the instructor told me I have to sign up to be a member. So I was one of the founding members, and I met Virginia Watson. And the reason she joined the organization was because she was writing about the Chatsworth history. So she's got a booklet published. And now we're looking at wildlife scenes at the Santa Susana Field Lab. It's an important link between the Santa Monica Mountains and the Santa Susana Mountains and beyond. And they have filmed everything there, from the mountain lions to the bobcats to the kittens to, that's a black bear that they filmed in 1916 and last year, 2024. Why do the bear was near the guzzler? There's a water guzzler that Boeing has put there for all the wildlife. When it's heavy drought season, they have water. And the cutest video that they filmed, and I can't find it, is, I'll have to ask them again. There's a scene where the mountain lion is at the guzzler, and a raccoon's there before the mountain lion, drinking, and the mountain lion's breathing on the back of the raccoon, and the raccoon just turns around and swipes the cougar away. It's really cute. And the coyote is the rock area of Woolsey that I was telling you about earlier, but I happened to be driving on my way to work, and the coyote's up there, and I stopped and photoed it. So now the There's so much to cover about the rocket engine development testing. I'll just have to breeze you through. What time is it? You're gonna.
It's the end.
It's the end. Okay. Basically, a few photos. This is it. North American Aviation, the Rocketdyne Division, started testing rocket engines out of Lax area. Of course, that wasn't acceptable, so they came to the Wilsey-Kin. And the first test stands were for the 1949 missiles. Test stands then, the second one's the Alpha Bravo for NASA, and the COCA stand. This stand in the middle is the COCA stand, and they just had to demolish it. Breaks my heart, but Saturn V Apollo flights, Apollo 11, moon landing, all of that was the direct beneficiary of the rocket testing done at Rocketdyne, and all the men and women at the Rocketdyne location on Canoga Park and other areas. But there's nothing there to recognize what happened. It's sad. Here we have, this is the bowl area where Werner von Braun was the prisoner of peace and his men captured after World War II, and they set it up so they'd be captured by the Americans. They didn't want to be captured by the Soviets. So they were brought here and immediately, quietly, began developing from the V2 rocket in Germany, a rocket that would get us to the moon. And we all know about John F. Kennedy's speech in September 1962. He wanted to be on the moon because the Russians were beating us in outer space by the year 1970. And we got there the year before, 1969. So COCA stand, larger, but it's gone. And the NASA Apollo 11 liftoff, of course, in Florida. And now we're at the end. The sun sets on Chatsworth. Happy trails. Now this is Nokia Rock. So when you go to turn at Red Mesa, you will see this huge rock. And I thank you very much.
So I want to thank Carla. Thank Carla for being here. And before you don't go. We have a plaque here to commemorate this wonderful occasion. And thank you so much for a very detailed and a thoroughly historic talk on this very interesting subject of our community. And that is a fabulous community when you think about it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And thank you. And so we will say good night. And thank you everybody for coming and be here for next month.